Calendar, which is one of the Google applications that are all free, and they run on pretty much any device on a web browser. Uh, and so I'm going to show you screens that would be, the screens I've copied here are from a Mac, but they would be very similar on any other device. And what I'll do is I'll go through those handouts. There's a couple of them. What I want to show you today is how to take advantage of some simple features in Google Calendar and how to use it with Zoom, so that when you want to join a meeting, if it's on your calendar, you can very easily do that. And that way you don't have to find the email that was sent to you with the link in it. You just put it in your calendar. If you're not using Google Calendar or another electronic calendar, this might encourage you to give it a try. Okay, and what I'm going to do is share my screen. And so you should see the first, actually, that's the second handout. You should see the using Google Calendar with Zoom. Can everybody see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. All right, so I put this together. So rather than doing a live demo, I would actually do these screenshots, so that what normally happens when you see something like this, you say, well, that's really cool, but I can't remember how to do it. And so the idea here is that you have these files, which you can pull up on your computer, or you can print them, whatever you like, and then just go through them yourself and do the same thing. So if you don't have a Google account or a Gmail account, they're very easy to get. You just have to make up a name that somebody isn't already using at gmail.com. It'll give you an email address. You don't have to use it, but you would use it for logging in purposes. You can even log in with a different email address if you want to, but it'll give you a Gmail address anyway. So at any rate, the web address of Google Calendar is this: https://calendar.google.com. If you're in Gmail or in Chrome, you'll see this little icon that looks like a tic-tac-toe board or a Zoom gallery view, if you will. And that will bring a pull-down menu of some of the Google applications. You can see there's a lot of them. They're famous for their maps and Google Calendar. They own YouTube, so that's included in here. Here's Gmail. And down here, the thing that looks like a calendar with a date on it is the calendar one. Okay. And what I'm going to show you today is how to add in an event into your Google Calendar for a Zoom meeting. And so if you got an email that has a web address for Zoom, they kind of look like there's a zoom.us in there, and then that's usually followed by a number and sometimes some other stuff. Then that's what we're talking about. That's the web address you would go to get to Zoom, and that will start Zoom through your web browser. And so the first thing you need to do is to copy the address. In this case, I did this off of a Senior Planet event, and they had a web page that showed this thing that happened on June 18th, which is when I made this document. So what I did was I highlighted the address and copied it, which is this address you see down here. And again, they're going to say HTTPS, it's going to have a zoom.us, it's going to have a meeting number, or meeting ID, and sometimes some other stuff for the password. And then what you want to do is go switch over to your Google Calendar and find the right day. So in this case, it is June 18th. This meeting is at 11:30. So you just click in the middle of this box, which is the 11 a.m. box on June 18th in this case. Here I see the month display, so you can see I'm looking at the 17th, and then next to it is the 18th. So I did this on the 17th of June. This little red line shows that I did this at 1:30 in the afternoon that day. Okay, and when you click on that, a little pop-up will come up that will start adding in this meeting. You can actually see this box come up, this green box. It says no title because you haven't put in a title yet. And since I clicked in the middle of that box, it thought, well, he probably means 11:30. If I clicked a little more to the top of the box, it might have thought I meant 11. But at any rate, we'll show you in a second how to fix that. So the first thing you want to do is add in the title, okay? And then you'll notice here there's a location field for every event, and that's where we're going to put our Zoom address. So what you do is you click on where it said add title, and then you type in the title, in this case, Lunch and Learn, and then you click on where the location is and you paste in that address we copied from the, in this case, the event webpage, but it might have been from an email about it or whatever. But well, the main thing is you copy down the Zoom address, okay? And then, so the next thing is, well, maybe this thing always goes long, particularly when I'm talking. So we really want to change the time here. And so if you click on, in this case, the end time, then I can change this to be 1 o'clock, and it shows that 11:30 to 1 will be 1.5 hours. Okay? And when I do that, you'll see the box get bigger. Okay, so you'll notice up here, it's going from 11:30 to 12:30. That's, and then here it's going down to 1 o'clock, and you can actually see the whole Zoom link in this little display. And then the real important thing is to click the save button. Okay, and then what that will do is you will now see from 11:30 to 1 on June 18th is this new event I've added in. So this is the easiest way to add in events into your calendar, okay? Now this is a special kind of event because there's a Lunch and Learn every day. And not only that, we use the same Zoom web address every single day. So one of the things that Google has that a lot of people don't take advantage of is rather than try to click on every 11:30 and add in a event for every day and paste in that thing, I can make what's called a repeating event. And so we start by clicking on the event. Is everybody following me so far? So we just made an event, we're going to edit it. So you click on the event and there'll be this little pencil button up here, and that is the edit button, okay? And it shows us what we've got already for that event. But this is going to bring up a whole page display that lets us do all kinds of editing on the event, okay? And the one that we're interested in is changing it to a repeating event. And you'll see here that it's got the date and time and everything. You can also make all day events by just clicking this, and then it doesn't have a time, it's just all day, and it shows up at the top of the calendar. But in this case, we're going to click does not repeat because we want to change that. And that is going to bring a little menu up. And then this says, well, does this happen every day? On Thursdays every week? It might be the third Thursday of the month. It might be every year on June 18th because it might be like a birthday. So when you put in somebody's birthday, you can make it an annual event and it'll show up every year on your calendar. Or in this case, the one we want is every weekday, Monday through Friday. It's actually possible to make even more things by selecting custom, and if we have time, I'll show you how to do that. So let's say you had an event like the Apple Addicts class I do Tuesday, Thursday mornings, I would do a custom to say, rather than every Tuesday, it's every Tuesday and Thursday at the same time and the same place and so on. Okay, so in this case, we're going to select every weekday, Monday through Friday, and then we're going to click Save. And now going back to where we were before, you'll notice that it showed up on Friday the 19th. It's got the same address and the same time and so on. And then up here, you see there's a Today button and then a left arrow and a right arrow, and it says we're in June when I took these screenshots. If I click the right button, then I can look at the following week, and you'll see that it's there every day. If I click the next week, it would be there as well, because I didn't give it an end date. If you have a repeating date that has a specific end date, you can put that in. And when you go past that date, you won't see it. So it's a very nice feature in Google Calendar. And then up here to the right of this gear is a little menu. And this actually lets you choose between different display modes for the calendar, and you can switch between looking a week at a time, a month at a time, or I've been switching here between 4 days and a week. So the 4-day display is nice because it just makes the columns a little wider. Okay. And then when it's time to join the event, we just click on it, and then up comes this little pop-up that we saw before when we pressed the edit button, but this time we're going to press the Zoom link. And you see it's underlined. That's how you know it's a link. And when we do that, depends a little bit on your browser. Okay, so if you're running Firefox or Chrome, you might see a display that looks like this, and it says, this page is trying to send you to this link, okay? And all you need to do is click on it again, and it will start Zoom. This is assuming you've got the Zoom application running on your device, that you've already downloaded it and so on. It will open up the Zoom application, take you right to the meeting. On some other web browsers like Safari, you might see a page that looks like this. It says if you have the Zoom client installed, client here means program. If you have the Zoom client installed, click Launch Meeting. So that's the same as clicking the link, the Zoom link up here. Okay? So you'll likely get one of those two screens, and then what'll happen is, in this case, when I try to join the meeting, as you all saw when you joined this meeting, you get put into a waiting room. And it says that you're in the waiting room and the host will put you into the meeting shortly.
Dave,
Okay.
I'm going to interrupt and have you answer some of the questions.
All right,
So
I'm going to stop sharing because we got to the end of the first thing. So
okay.
that actually worked out.
Perfect
So far,
timing.
so good timing-wise. Okay, sure.
So Rose is saying that some rooms require passwords. Is there a place to add the password?
Well, if they require passwords, then the Zoom link may very well have the password built in. If not, when you start Zoom, it'll ask you for the password. So when you get to that point, instead of getting right to the waiting room, it would ask you for the password. But you will see longer Zoom links. You remember I mentioned that some of them have stuff after that number, and that's usually the password, so that you don't have to type it in. Okay.
And then
so this is a lot easier than having to type in that 9 or 10 digit number. It's much easier just to go to your calendar, click on the event, say, get me into this, and then you just click one more time and you're in.
Dave, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
We've got a bunch of questions, but go ahead, Dana.
Oh, I was going to say real quick, somebody mentioned about the password. What you need to do with the password is if there's a password, copy that password, and when you're in that calendar, there's a note section there. Put that password there so you could find it when you're trying to get into the meeting.
Right. Yeah. So when I showed you the thing, we modified the title and location. There's another field that Dana's talking about, and I'll show it to you when we get back into the other, the second document that I made for this. So there's a thing called a description, and you can paste in more information like the password. That way you could actually copy it before you click the link, and then you could just paste it when it asks you for the password.
So another question is, how do you let the calendar know that you will no longer be going to that meeting?
Oh, okay. Well, what you would do is, let's say you wanted to delete a meeting that's repeating. It'll say, do you want to delete just this meeting or this one and all the ones after it? And you would just say this one and all the ones after it. And then it just goes away. You won't have any more of them. So it essentially sets the end date to the last time you came to the meeting.
And
Does that make sense?
You're going to explain more about setting reminders? Where do you set the
Yeah,
reminder?
that's in the second document.
Yeah, okay. I just have to say, Allegra says, wow, so easy and super uncomplicated. I don't know why I keep writing my upcoming events on my desk calendar. So yeah.
Well, maybe this will be an encouragement to give it a try. It's actually really simple, and if there's time, I can demo this stuff. Like a lot of technology, it can seem daunting, but then once you see it, it's really not all that complicated. You don't have to be some kind of tech genius to use this stuff by any means.
And I just wanted you to clarify, Faye asks, is the calendar on iPhone Apple Calendar? So that's a completely different thing than
right.
There
is, you can set up your iPhone, and I have this class Tuesday mornings about iPhones. You can set up your Google account on your iPhone, and then these events will appear there. You do the same thing on any other electronic calendar. So the Apple Calendar or the Apple app on the phone has ways of pasting in location. It has ways of entering titles. It has ways of setting repeats exactly the same way that Google Calendar does.
This is
a slightly different interface, but it's really, when you add a calendar on your phone, it has you set up the date and the start time and the end time and other information about it. So it works pretty much the same way.
I was just going to say, Dave, that's the Apple Calendar and the Google Calendar side by side on the iPhone. So you could do that.
If there's a little bit of time, I can actually share my phone and show that to you. But what I'd suggest is look on Judy's emails. There's a link for the Apple Addicts thing I do Tuesday, Thursday mornings.
Yeah,
so
and I'll put that.
I'll be happy to show you how to use the calendar on the phone.
Yeah, I'll put that in the follow-up email. I did want, let's see, we've one last, oh, hi, Uncle Paul, good to see you. He's asking, can the Google Calendar be connected with Alexa to notify?
That's a good question. I don't know offhand. I would not be at all surprised if that's easy to do, but I don't have an Alexa, so I don't know.
I'll look it up.
Yeah, thanks, Abraham.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some people joined late, so I just wanted to say we've got a pretty substantial handout that has everything Dave is covering step by step. If you want that handout and any follow-up information from this particular call, please put your email into the chat. If you don't know how to do that, you can email me at judy@seniorplanet.org and just say, send me the information and I will do that. Or you can hang on at the end of the call and give me your email verbally. Okay, Dave, let's get going.
Sure, okay. So what I'm gonna do is go back to, I had no idea how long this would, oh, that's not what I wanted. Oh, yeah, here it is. Yeah, so I'm going to go to the second handout. Can everybody see where it says Google Calendar settings? So these things are long, but they're kind of like cartoons. There's not much on each page, so don't get intimidated by the size of these. And they probably aren't worth printing, but you may want us to save them on your computer so you can open them and look at them while you're trying to do this. Okay, so there's lots and lots of settings on all the Google applications, including Google Calendar. We're only going to go over sort of the ones you're most likely to use here. Okay, so as we saw before, when you click on an event, there's this little pencil button, and that's how you edit an event. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I've set up an event for my Apple Addicts class, and that has a slightly different Zoom address. You see, this sort of is a follow-on of the first document. Okay, and the first thing I want to do is add in have it notify me. Whoa, hang on a second. I want to have it notify me a little bit before the event. And so when I edit it, you'll see here there's an add notification link. Can everybody see that? And when you click on that, a little pop-up will come up. And in this case, you have the choice of whether you want to have a little pop-up window appear on your device or whether you want to get an email. Okay? And so by default, it assumes you want a notification 10 minutes before the event, but it's easy to edit that. So in this little pop-up window that comes up, if you click on these little down arrows, I don't know if it may be too small for you to see, but next to this red arrow is a little down arrow. That's kind of the indicator in the Google applications and many other things that there's a menu there. So when I click on that, a little menu shows up that lets me choose between emails and notifications. I likewise can type in whatever number I want, and then select minutes, hours, days. So if I wanted it to come an hour before, I'd change that to 1 and change this to hours. And if I want it to be an email, I would select email. Okay. And then after you do that, don't forget to do the save button. Okay, that's very important. Some of these things automatically save, but the settings in Gmail and Google Calendar and stuff actually have an explicit save button you have to click. In this case, if it's not a recurring meeting, it'll just go back to the calendar. If it is a recurring meeting, you'll get a little pop-up that gives you the choice. Do I want to change just this event, this, and all the following events of this type, or all events going backwards and forwards of this type? Okay, so in this case, I want the notifications not just for this event, but this one and everything in the future. So I would choose the second thing, and then you click OK. And then every future version will have that notification in this case. Okay, questions on notifications? So it's very easy to add notifications and change them on events. And it's very handy. There is a general calendar settings thing, which I don't think I have time to go over today, but it lets you set up a default setting. So every new event will get a notification of a particular type, either an email or a pop-up notification. Okay.
All right, and really quick, just to add, I did add the link to the chat room that Uncle Paul was requesting. It's from How to Geek. So I like their work. So they have a lot of images to help support the setup of Alexa talking to Google Calendar.
And
Thank
I
you so much.
also put that into, I'm constructing the email right now. So I've also got that in the email, follow-up email for you.
Right. Okay. So I'll talk a little bit about a few other things, and then we might actually have time for me to do more of a live demo of things. Oops, hang on one second. Right next to an open door that, so I apologize if you heard an airplane go by. So at any rate, so one nice thing you can do is on that calendar list on the left, you'll see other calendars and a little plus button, okay? And when you hover over buttons in the Google applications, it'll tell you what they are. So it's usually a good idea to hover over it, make sure it's what you think it is before you click on it. And then if I click that plus button, one of the things I can do is say browse calendars of interest, okay? And what that does is there's gobs of calendars that are free and easy to add into your calendar. There's all kinds of holidays, all kinds of sports. If you select sports, like if you select baseball and then Major League Baseball, there'll be one for the Rockies to pull up their games automatically onto your calendar. Phases of the moon, all kinds of things. If you Google shared Google calendars, you'll find even more of them, because one of the options you have is putting in a URL for one of those calendars. So there's probably thousands, if not tens of thousands of calendars that people have made publicly available. I happen to use the holidays one, but you can add in, and I actually have the other members of my family have shared their calendars, and that's what the next thing I want to show you is, let's say you've got a calendar and you want to share it, but not with the world, but just with specific people, okay? So here, what you do is on the left, next to your calendar, is this 3 little vertical dots. And that'll bring up a little pop-up. And there's things you can do. You'll notice that this is currently green. I can change all the events to a different color, okay? So if I just click on the color, all the events for that calendar will change to that. So it's usually a good idea if you have multiple calendars to select different colors. The color you select has nothing to do with how other people view it. They get to choose their own colors, okay? But one of the things you can do, okay, is well, I'll get to that in a second. So that's how you change the color, okay? So let's say you're in a book group and you want to create a calendar for your book group events. And these days it might even be on Zoom. So you could use what we talked about the first half to put in the Zoom location into that calendar, or the events in that calendar, okay? Then going back to where we added in the holiday calendars, under other calendars, there's a plus sign here. And instead of browse calendars of interest, if you say create new calendar, okay, then what that's going to do is do a little, you'll see on the right side of the screen, it lets you type in the name. I'll just call it book group, but you might say Senior Planet book group or whatever, okay? And then and it lets you select a few things here. In this case, it's setting it up for the Mountain Time Zone, which is our time zone. And then you say create calendars, and then on your list of calendars, this new thing will appear, okay? And then you again click on those 3 dots to bring up the options. So I gave it here or it came up orange, which is fine. But I'm going to click, instead of a new color, I'm going to click this settings and sharing, okay? Because I want to share this with the other people in the group, okay? So I'm not sharing an event here, I'm sharing a whole calendar of events. Is that clear to people? just like whoever created the holidays is sharing all the holiday events. Okay, so when you scroll down on the right-hand side, which is showing you this thing, you'll see a share with specific people section, which I've blown up here, and you click on add people. Okay, so it's really pretty straightforward. And then up comes this pop-up that says share with specific people. And Judy is in my Google contacts thing. So when I started to type in her email address, it knew who that was, and it does a little pop-up showing me, yeah, that's who it is. And then I would just click send, and she would get an email inviting her to share this calendar. And that's all there is to sharing. You can actually put in multiple addresses there, or you can add more people one at a time, whichever you like. And then after I shared it with Judy, in that share with specific people, she will appear, and then you see a pull down menu here. It says see all event details and an X. So if I did that to the wrong person and I want to stop sharing, or Judy leaves the book group and I want to stop sharing this calendar with her, I would just click the X and it would say, you want to remove Judy from this calendar? I'd say yes. But in this case, this thing here that has, again, that little down arrow for a menu will bring up a menu that controls what can Judy do. Can she just see the events? Can she make changes to the events? And so on. And so in your book group, you may very well want to let other people make changes to the events or add in changes to the calendar. Or you may just want to be the person that adds in new events and not change their privileges. But you can always click add people and add in all the different people in your book group, and they'll all get this email and say, if you're using Google Calendar, here's an easy way to see all of the events. I don't think Senior Planet is doing a calendar at this point, are they, Judy?
No.
But it would be same idea, okay? That that you can share the calendar, and in this case, we're just sharing it with specific people. Okay. So let me stop for a second and I'll come back and do some live demos here since we actually got through that pretty fast. So questions?
Dave, one thing I want to add real quick to what you
Sure.
said there was whenever you go in to use a calendar, for example, if any of you have a Google Calendar and you happen to have more than one, you have to be very careful when you're adding an event to be sure which one. I mean, none of you have to, well, most of you might not have to worry about it. For example, I use a work Google Calendar and a personal one. So whenever let's say I'm putting in my doctor's appointment, I have to be careful which one I'm putting it in.
Right.
That I'm not putting in my doctor's appointment in my work calendar. So just so you know, just be
Well, there'll be an indication that you've done it wrong, which is it'll be the wrong color. Okay, so if your personal calendar is green and your work calendar is red, okay, then when you add that event into your work calendar, it'll show up as red, which will be an indication to you that you've added it to the wrong calendar. Luckily, you don't need to delete it. You can edit it and change the calendar it's in, and then it'll change back to green. I'll actually show that to you here in a second if we have a moment.
There's a couple of quick questions on
Sure.
the chat. So one was, is there sound notification that comes with this, like an alarm clock?
Right. Well, when I talked about notifications, it depends a little bit on your device. If you're doing this on a computer and you set up, remember you had the choice of notification or email. If you choose a notification And this again is a little bit dependent on your exact environment, but assuming that the browser can give you notifications, then a little pop-up window will come up. And let's say you use that default of 10 minutes before the event. 10 minutes before the event, you'll see a little window come up. And if you click on that, it'll take you right to your calendar to that event.
I asked that question because I came in late to the meeting.
Oh, okay.
And I'm usually doing stuff on my computer all day long. So I've got
Sure.
many things going on. And I really wanted to get in on the beginning of the meeting. And that's why I asked the question about Alexa. I get bothered by Alexa all the time with little audio notifications.
Right.
And of course, I have a knock, knock, knock if there's an email or something on my phone. And I'm just wondering if the calendar had some sort of I don't know where it could come from, the phone or it could come from the computer, to just say, there's a meeting in 10 minutes or something.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. It'll show up on your computer. Now, Alexa, again, I don't have Alexa, but Alexa probably or you can give it access to your calendar and it will give you those annoying audio warnings as well that you love. So you probably have a variety of options. I'm sure there's a way of telling Alexa not to do that. Okay, that hopefully works. But yeah, the other thing is if you get pop-ups for new emails and you send yourself an email, that like a lot of times you can set up multiple notifications. So you might say, give me an email the day before and give me a notification 10 minutes before the event on the computer. So you saw there was a plus sign next to the or add notification button. So you can have as many as you want, but it at the moment doesn't have the choice of a text message, but it's just between pop-up notification and an email. Other questions?
We have
Hopefully
some
this
people
was
here.
helpful for people.
David, Dave, Diane is saying, does this apply also to Google Assistant?
Yeah, I don't, that's on the phone?
I think so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, I'm more, the reason I call my class Apple Addicts is I swallowed the Kool-Aid or whatever, so I'm totally now an Apple person. I used to be both, and so I don't have an Android phone and I don't have PCs, so maybe Judy can answer that.
Yeah, I actually declined the Google Assistant on my Android, so I don't use it. So I have to say I don't have the knowledge, but I'm Googling it right now, and so I'll get information about that.
Right.
Judy,
The wonder of the internet is when you don't know something, you just type it into Google or DuckDuckGo or whatever you're doing. And whatever you use for searching, and
okay, Dave.
And oftentimes you'll find a good answer.
Dave,
sometimes you'll find a bunch of bad answers too.
Dave, Diane's going to clarify her question. I'm sorry, Diane.
Sure.
That's fine. The reason I'm asking is, yes, I have a Droid cell, then I have the PC, and I have an iPad. And somebody said, well, if you just go to the assistant, you don't have to do them all separately. It'll do them all at the same time, which would be a lot easier because I carry my phone with me, but not my iPad.
Well, okay. That's a sort of different question. Okay. So I've talked about this in some other classes, this idea of synchronization. So this calendar is not on your device. Okay. Excuse me a second. This calendar doesn't live on your device. It lives on the cloud or the internet. In fact, it lives on the Google Cloud. Okay. So Google is keeping track of your events and your calendars. And so any device that you have where you can log in with that user, you can see your Google Calendar events. Okay. And so, or if you're on an Apple device like a phone, if you set up your Google account on your phone, you will see your Google Calendar events show up in the Apple Calendar. And then the other thing that happens with different devices using a shared cloud-based calendar like this is this idea of synchronization. So when you pull up your calendar program on your phone, it automatically, when it connects to Google, it connects to the internet, says, are there any changes in the calendar since the last time I pulled it down? That's called synchronization. And the idea is that anything you did on another device will automatically just show up on your device if you're using a special application like on a phone. If you're using a browser, you're just looking at it through the browser and you'll see the very latest. Likewise, if you add an event on your phone, that gets uploaded to the cloud, and the next time your other device is synchronized, they'll see it, just like contacts or email works that way. Lots of things these days work that way, which is one of the nice things about these cloud-based applications.
David, we have another, is that good, Diane?
I'm going to absorb this in layers. I'm working on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it used to be that when you had a computer, all your stuff was on that computer, and if that computer went up in smoke or whatever, you hadn't backed it up, you were in real trouble. These days, a lot of your information, like your calendar of events, doesn't exist just on that computer. It's also, the master copy is on the internet, on the Google Cloud is what it's fancy name for.
Thank you.
Dave, I think we need to clarify this, get a little clarification here.
Sure.
So Gloria says, for this class, I clicked the meeting and Zoom ID and it automatically appeared, so I could click and join. I did not have to go through the extra steps like topic or name of session, etc., that you did at the beginning.
Topic? Oh, well, that probably is because the folks that were letting people in the waiting room saw you come in so fast that you never saw the waiting room thing. The little display I was showing you there, let me bring that up again. Make sure I'm understanding your question.
I think my interpretation,
So
Gloria, you're going to have to chime in here, but my interpretation is that what Dave is talking about was setting things up versus what you're talking about as coming in as a participant.
Right. So if you're coming in as a participant and you click on the link or this launch meeting link, depending on your browser, if there's no waiting room in the meeting, you'll just come right up and it says, do you want to use your video and audio, and those questions that come in the beginning of a Zoom call. In this case, since it was this lunchtime meeting, there's always a waiting room. So you might see something like this, but you will see the meeting start up just as if you had typed in the code.
Excuse me.
Right into Zoom.
It's the opposite. I set it up like an hour and a half before. And I didn't have to, all I did was click, I went on Senior Planet, looked up the event. On the right-hand side, it gave me the option, I think, of Google or iCal. I picked Google, and it automatically entered all of that.
All right.
Yeah.
Sure. Now, I think what you're talking about, let me go.
Yeah, Gloria, the difference is that when I set up the meeting, I set up all the stuff Dave was talking about already. It was already pre-programmed.
Yeah, so you see this web page. There's a thing here, add to your calendar. Is that what you did? So if you click on Google Calendar here, then it will bring up that edit calendar page in Google Calendar. It may ask you whether you want them to do that. And it'll take you right to that edit event page. The reason I didn't do that is I wanted to show you how to do this if the event you're going to doesn't have this. The easiest way to add it to your calendar is this link, which I think is a very good point to bring up. Can everybody see that? This is this is an older web page for one of the lunchtime meetings, and it gives you the option of Google Calendar or Apple Calendar. That's quite common with notifications for events, but if it doesn't happen, all you have to do is copy the event. The process we run here of clicking on the right time and date and adding it in. And that only takes a minute or two. And I can show you this to you live. So here, can everybody see that? Let me boost this up a little. Everybody see that?
Yes.
So I've actually got a whole bunch of calendars here. My calendar has got all kinds of things, like you can see I went in here to the event today and changed the title to Google Calendar, and I capitalized it to tell me that I'm doing it. Okay, but you can see that stuff. If I just close that down, then that one goes away. I've got other family calendars, I've got holidays and whatnot here, and a Rockies calendar and whatnot. So in this case, I just set up a new calendar for training. So just to show you what this is like, so let's say I wanted to set up this, here we are on the 9th of July. We know it's July because it says so on the top. If I click right here, up comes the new event. I can say Lunch and Learn. Okay, I come down here to the location and I would type in the Zoom URL, which I didn't copy this time, but this is where you would put it. I click save, and then it comes in here. If I click on this event and click the edit button, so this is sort of showing you what I did in the document, then I could come in here and, oops, I made it the wrong time. So let me scroll up and say this is 11:30, and we'll make it go till 1. Okay, and I could say this repeats every weekday. I can add in a notification, okay, and it could be an email notification, and I want it to come, let's say, 1 hour beforehand, okay? And then while I'm in here, just to show you some other options, if I click on custom, okay, then on the top it says, how often are you talking about? Are you talking about every week? And I say, yes, every week. And let's say I only come to the lunch things Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I could just select Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And I could say that it ends, hopefully, let's say October 1st. Okay, let's say October 2nd. Okay, if I say done, then this will say weekly on Monday and Wednesday until October 2nd. Okay, and if I click save, okay, then particularly if let me change to the month display, okay, then you'll see all these little green dots. Those are the events every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. You can see they all say Lunch and Learn. So if I click on one, you can see this is the one on the 22nd. Okay. And then if I want to get rid of them, somebody asked about that. Let's say I'm not going to come to this guy here. Oops. Let me go back to, let's go back to the week time display. So if on this guy here, I want to get rid of this guy, I would click this trash can, which is sort of the universal delete event. But just to make sure you understand, when I hover over it, it tells me it's going to delete. And then I can say, just this event, I'm going to miss it on this Monday, or this is my last time I'm going to come to this thing. And then if you do that, then if I go back to the months display, you'll see I have not gotten rid of anything before the 27th, but all the ones from there on got deleted. If I say, oh, I didn't really mean to do that, right, then I could come back into this and edit it and change the end date and so on and so forth. Any other quick questions while I've got, I know we're about out of time. Any other questions while I've got this live?
Faye has a hand
Faye has a
on.
question.
I don't know if anyone.
I'm sorry, did you say Faye?
Yes,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Does everything automatically go to Google Chrome if I downloaded it?
Yes, that's a great question. I happen to be using Firefox here, but this is a browser application. I could use any browser I want as long as I go to calendar.google.com and log in with my identifier and bring up Calendar. I will see it anywhere in the world on any browser.
Oh, okay. So why is it that I don't see?
It doesn't matter what kind of browser it is.
Why is it that I don't see, say, my pictures on Google Chrome or my schedule on Google? When I go in there, I don't see material that I expect to see.
So hang on one second. I'm going to stop the share. Okay, sorry. So Faye, did you add events to your calendar or what did you do?
Well, not real. Did I add? I've done that in the past, but I'm using the Apple Calendar. So does that mean that calendar will show up on iCloud?
Well, it depends on how you set this on your phone. Yeah,
It's my
iPhone. Yeah, you can set up your iPhone so it has multiple calendars that it knows about, and you would want to make sure that what I do on mine is I just attach it to my Google Calendar. And so when I create events, they automatically go right into my Google Calendar if I make one on the phone. But I didn't show that
so on
to you.
Your
but
iPhone, you wouldn't be using your Apple Calendar. You would just be using your Google Calendar. Is that what you're saying?
No, when I talk about Apple Calendar, there's two different interpretations. So I'm sorry, that's confusing. One of them is just like Google has a cloud that stores contacts and calendar events and all kinds of things. Apple has an equivalent thing called the Apple Cloud, or the iCloud is what they usually do it, because it's everything, iPhone, iPad, and so on.
Right.
So when the other way of when I talk about Apple Calendar is on a phone, there's a application that you can use to get to your calendar. You could just use the browser, although it won't look all that great on the phone. Or you can use a special calendar program on the phone. People normally use the Apple Calendar, and you can set that up so it works fine with your Google account. You just have to set it up that way. And there is also a Google Calendar app or application. So just like there's all different kinds of browsers that let you get to your calendar, there's all kinds of applications. There's probably hundreds of applications you could load onto your phone that will all get you to the same information. So I'm separating where the information is stored. Is it on the Apple world or the Google world, and what application you're running to look at it. Is that clear?
I see. Yes, yes,
Yeah,
thank you.
because that confuses people when they talk about, what browser they use. They'll give you the name of a web page, right? Because they don't understand the difference between looking at a web page and the program that you're using to look at that web page. Okay, and that's a natural thing that everybody runs into. But sooner or later, you figure out that just like you could have a word processor, and the word processor could be Microsoft Word. In the Apple world, they have, help me, Dana, what is it called in the Apple world?
Safari.
No, the word processor. I don't use it. It's not Numbers, it's the other one.
Oh, no.
There's an Apple program, it's a word processor in any case. This like Word, you could use Google as its own document thing, which is a very nice word processor. So there's all different kinds of word processors. And you can share the files between them and so on. So there's this concept of having a word processor, and then there's the details of which one you're using. It's the same way with browsers and calendars, or you could have multiple programs for looking at your contacts, and they all could access the same data on the cloud.
Dave, is it called Pages?
Pages, yeah, thank you.
See, Google gets you everything. Actually, I'm not using Google, I'm using DuckDuckGo.
Oh, great. Yeah, that's right. So the idea is there's different kinds of programs, and then there's the data that you're manipulating on those programs. So there's calendar data, which is calendars and events. And then there's calendar programs that let you look at them. And so particularly on phones and iPads, you don't usually use the browser interface for a lot of these things. You'll use a special interface that is customized for that device and that data.
Hey, Dave, it's Gail. I got a question for you.
Okay.
So I set up a Zoom meeting this morning, and it's for 5 o'clock tomorrow night.
Mm-hmm.
And I do have Google email, and I could have posted it to a Google Calendar, but I kind of use Google only for senior planning stuff, and a lot of my friends don't know my Google email address.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to post it having an Apple phone to my Apple Calendar,
Mm-hmm.
which it did.
Right.
So the meeting's at 5 o'clock,
Sure.
but it posted my meeting to the calendar at 11 a.m. tomorrow.
Yeah. What I would suggest, I want to kind of offload this onto a separate discussion. You can either feel free to come to the Tuesday morning class, or you can contact me and we can set up a time to do a one-on-one session. And I'll go ahead and I can put my address in here.
No, it's okay, Dave. I think I've got it all. I've got your, it's
yeah, so that's sort of the kind of thing we talk about on Tuesday, Thursday mornings. And what I would do is have you share your screen and show me what you're doing, and then this happens to me all the time when I use my phone for adding events. I think I've got it in the right day and the right time, and I put it in and the event is gone. And what happened was, before I saved it, I hadn't double checked that I had the right stuff, and I put it on the wrong day or the wrong time. That's the big problem with calendars.
What's funny though is when I click on the event itself, it says 5 o'clock.
Well, again, I can't really help you with that right now, but I can certainly do it at another venue.
But I was also doing it from a PC to Apple, an Apple calendar.
Right. You can set up so that your Google Calendar interface can see your Apple events if you want, and vice versa. So, but yeah, I'd be glad to help you, but I don't want to have everybody hanging on for that.
Okay, thank you.
Let other people ask other questions.
Dave, do you want to share your email? Faye wants your email.
Sure.
Dave, could that have been a time zone issue?
Yes, it could be a time zone issue.
Mm-hmm.
If you came in at 11 o'clock and you put it in at 5, you might have set it to London time or something. Who knows? Yeah, the wonderful thing about computers is they let you make all kinds of mistakes, and then they blame it on user error.
Do you teach drones?
Drones? No, I don't.
No, no.
Oh, okay. Okay, because I spoke to somebody, he called me from, his name was Dave. I don't know if you know, somebody else called me with tech support named Dave.
No, we are having a drone lecture coming up.
That's the guy that teaches. His name's Dave.
No, I don't know. I don't know who Dave is in terms of the.
That might be a New York class.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I want everybody to understand something. Dave Tanzer, who's giving this, is our member at Senior Planet Colorado and our fabulous volunteer. So this is something he's doing special for us. I want people are asking questions about getting in touch with Dave. He does, out of the kindness of his heart, he helps everybody. He's so generous. The Tuesday and Thursday Apple Addicts thing that he runs, program that he runs, is not advertised on Senior Planet nationally. It's only advertised to Colorado people in the Colorado newsletter. But when you come on the call and Dave has said that there's the Apple Addicts and you're welcome to join that. But we don't want to publicize that nationally and bombard him and overwhelm him with huge numbers of people. So we are so thankful for his generosity in doing all of this. But Dave is not a Senior Planet trainer. He's one of our volunteers. So
did you have
that do
sorry, Judy, I thought you were done. Uncle Paul looks like you need to unmute yourself. Then.
Yeah, unmute Uncle Paul.
Dave and everyone, something I discovered about Google Calendar is as not so much looking into the future as much as there were times when I really I totally forgot when I went to have a doctor's appointment or I went someplace. And as occurs when you have a booklet with your dates and your stuff you did and telephone numbers you put in, things like that, a past calendar becomes very valuable information in case you want to go and look at something. So
that's an excellent point. I didn't show you, but there's a search button on the top of your calendar. So if you searched, and let's say your doctor's name is Dr. Smith, and you always put it in as Dr. Smith for your appointments, you could search for Dr. Smith. It'll show you the full history of your past doctor's appointments or any future.
What I was wondering, what if you have, say, 2 or 3 years of Google Calendar information, is there a format, an archive format or something where you can do a search without having all the calendar format, just a database of information with an event, the date, the time?
Well, the Google Calendar is that database, and it does have a pretty easy to use search thing. It's only looking at the text you've typed in, right? So if you type in, let's say you've got an interesting doctor's name, Dr. Sneezegard or whatever, right? Then
he's very good.
You may put in DOCTOR sometimes and DR dot other times. So you'd want to just search for Sneezegard, and that way it would pull in both of them.
And you can use this as a booklet of things that you want to record. Like, let's say today for something this morning, you had something happen this morning and you want to use it like a little something in the past. So you can use the calendar that way. You can go into the yesterday where you want to keep a record of that.
Sure,
and it'll use it as a journal.
You can add events in the past. Yeah, definitely.
Like a journal.
Yeah, you can click on any day you want to add an event. If you add them in the past, then they're in the past.
I find that extremely handy.
I mean, there's a whole bunch of other calendar things. It has reminders that'll come up, and I'd put birthdays on there. It's an incredibly handy application, and
I have information on there that is nowhere else. And the only place I'm looking around, where did I put that note? Where did I put this? And suddenly I look back in a note, and there it is in the calendar.
Yeah, it is your database. I don't know if it has an export feature. I've never looked into that. It may very well have a way to export all of your events to a spreadsheet. That wouldn't surprise me, but I don't know offhand.
Yeah, it does have an export feature, and many people use it as a documenting all sorts of things. So if you were doing a memoir, or you're just trying to keep track of a certain situation within your life or whatever, I find it really handy. At the end of the year, I review my photos and my my calendar at the same time, and kind of document what that year was about. So it's really handy. It's great, like you were saying, Uncle Paul, for tracking medical situations, personal situations, family situations. So yeah, you can use it far beyond just the calendar. And as Dave was saying, it's like your personal database.
Mm-hmm. Dave, there's a question.
Do you know how many years back it goes? I've been using Google Calendar for decades, but I don't seem to be able to search decades ago.
Like, when do you think you started using it?
I would say 10 years ago, but I'm not sure.
Well, you can, I don't know the answer to that. As far as I know, it doesn't delete things just because they're in the past. Yeah, I don't know if I've been using it for 10 years. I could go back and see how far back my calendar goes, but it could very well be I've been using it for 10 years.
Okay. One other thing you could use it for is if you have a claim, some kind of an insurance claim, you can go back and look and see when did the basement flood and when did you contact me and or not respond.
Right. Yeah, it definitely is kind of a record of your life depending on how you use it. I use it all the time for things like, you know, I have the furnace and air conditioner looked at a couple of times every year. And so I can search for those and say, have I already done that this year? Because with a memory like mine, that's why I went into computers, because I don't have a memory. So I'll say, have I already done this year? I thought I did, but I'm not sure. You can just go see if you have an appointment that has already gone by where you've already had it done. So yeah, it's very, very handy for
I
sure.
put in a reminder on January 1 to check the mileage on my car.
Right.
Purpose of taxes.
Yep. And you can set that up as a recurring event every January 1st. It's real easy to do. Yeah, the nice thing about the Google Calendar, like most of if you compare the Google Calendar to standalone old style applications, it's very, very easy to use. They have a lot of people that spend a lot of time trying to figure out the easiest way to have you do things. It's called user interface design is the fancy word, but they have specialists who do nothing but figure out how can we keep you from screwing up again, right? And so they try to make this real easy to use. Judy uses calendars in a very different way than I did. A few weeks ago, she gave a demonstration of how she creates events, and it's much more business oriented. So Judy adds people to her events and all kinds of things. And I don't know if you recorded that, Judy, because Judy just sent out a thing of all the recordings she did.
Yeah, actually I did, but I thought it was just, after I talked to you, I just thought it was too miserable for everybody.
But if you want to see the next level of using Google Calendar, go ask Judy for that recording. Because Judy does things that never occurred to me. So yeah, but she's using it more or less like an Outlook calendar, which is the Microsoft calendaring system.
Yeah, which is what I was originally trained on. So
yeah. And some systems are really designed to set up meetings. So you see everybody's calendar and you're looking for times and you're inviting them to meetings and it sends out invitations and all kinds of things like that. And I just don't use it that way, but Judy does. So those kind of questions I will defer to our experts.
So if you want to go crazy, just contact me and I'll show you my methodology.
Somebody was asking if I'm doing the Gmail class, and yes, I am. I'm doing a class tomorrow, and what is the class tomorrow?
Yeah, tomorrow is the, I'm learning.
Look on my
I'm not
calendar.
going to say it unless I read it on the right date. Yeah, it's going to be the Gmail settings. This is going to be really great because I even need a little help there.
Yeah. So, yeah, yeah, it's just a real useful tool. And like my wife is a very heavy user of this, and so she can put events on there, and then I can see what she's doing, and she can see what I'm doing. It's a very, very handy tool.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Oh wait, before you go, Phyllis has her hand up, so let's let Phyllis go first.
Okay.
Well, I was out of the room a bit, so if you covered this, let me know. On the Senior Planet at the bottom, you could add to your calendar.
Right.
Well,
that is a shortcut.
Yeah, but when you do it, what is nice about it is if it's Eastern time or Pacific time.
Well, it actually, I believe, is smart enough to adjust it to your calendar time, which is one of the settings on your account, is what time zone you want to use. And so if you pull in if you pull it in, you'll probably see, like, if you added this event and you're in New York, instead of starting at 11:30, you would see it come in at 1:30 Eastern time. And it would just do that conversion for you automatically because it knows that's the time zone that you like to use.
I just found out if you do that, when you go to the email, you could link it in the email. I'm trying to really slow down enough to see that the link to the Zoom meeting is already in the email. You don't have to go back to Senior Planet.
Right. And most of the time when you do that from emails, you will see it automatically puts the Zoom address into the location field. When you click that, it comes up with an edit event window for you inside the calendar system. If you run into one, and I run into these periodically because I like watching webinars from our Museum of Science and all that kind of stuff, and sometimes they've set it up so it doesn't do that automatically, but you can always copy the link and paste it up into the location before you save the event. So make sure when you save the event, if you're going through that automated process, that the location field has the link in it, so it's real easy to get to when you click on it later.
Who had the other?
Well, I do.
Okay, I will. Will the webinar be tomorrow at the same time?
Yeah,
like
same time, same link, everything. So you can you can Google Senior Planet Colorado events.
Colorado events. Okay.
Yeah, and
all right, and I have to give you my email at the end of this because I didn't get the handouts at the time.
Actually, Bernadette, why don't you give it to me right now?
Okay, it's Gibbons, GIBBONSB at SI, Smithsonian Institution.edu.
Okay, can you repeat that again?
GIBBONS, and then the letter B, first letter of my first name, at S, like in Sam, I.edu.
Okay, GIBBONSB at SI.edu.
That's correct.
Got it.
Okay, I have a question. I'm not able to make the Gmail tomorrow. Do you have them again at another point?
And I'll record it and send it to you.
Oh, okay, great, thank you. I'm working, so I'm not able to take that class. Thank you.
And Ann, you put your email in the chat, right?
Yeah, an9ru@verizon.net.
Let me find it.
Well, thank you everybody for your patience. And
I think Laurie has a hand up.
Thank you.
Laurie has a hand up.
This has been great.
Are all the classes recorded?
No, not Senior Planet content, but I usually record all the original programming.
Thank you.
And wait a minute, I'm not finding it. What am I missing here? I'm looking.
My email?
Yeah, wait, the email's so huge, the chat rather, I'm not there yet.
Lori, did you have a question?
Actually, mine wasn't a question. I was going to share something, and I know we're way over time.
No, we're good. Anybody can pop off if they want. And,
okay.
And would you just type it in again? Oh, never mind. I got it.
Thank you. Thanks.
I wanted to share an example of using a shared calendar. My father lived in Sarasota, and my 5 siblings and I live all over the country, and we were committed to visiting him on a rotating cycle. So he had a visitor as frequently as possible. We didn't overlap. So we created a shared calendar that the 6 of us could see. We called it Sarasota, where he lived. Mm-hmm. And we would put our trip in as soon as we scheduled a trip. So somebody else wouldn't go at the same time. They would plan their trip a couple weeks later and give him more visits. Right. So that's an example of it really worked beautifully.
Yeah.
Then the other thing where I got myself in trouble, I was traveling back and forth from Mountain Time Zone, Colorado to Eastern Time Zone, Sarasota. And I would make a plan for dinner with my Sarasota cousins and put it in for 6 o'clock. And then I'd get there and there'd be it just wouldn't show up.
Right.
Because it translated it into Eastern time automatically. So watch your settings. There's a way to set that the calendar will always go to the time zone you're in. Or when I made the appointment, I could schedule it in the Eastern time zone at the time that I placed it in the calendar. Otherwise, I ended up not knowing, why am I missing meetings and missing appointments?
Yeah, that kind of thing happens to me all the time. That's probably the thing I use the search feature for most is where did I put that event? Because I put it on the wrong day or the wrong time. Yeah, the general rule of thumb is when it's asking you to click a save button, just review everything before you click save because you might have put the wrong information in. That's just a general tip.
I will put in PM when I mean AM sometimes. And the other thing is just to think, if I'm going to be in a different time zone when I want to use this calendar event, enter it appropriately so that it shows up the right way on the day I am in that time zone.
Yeah, well, I've now it's interesting. My wife is unbelievable at remembering when things will be. You can say, what are we doing next February 3rd? And in her head, she'll be able to tell you. But so it's this attraction of opposites thing where you say, what am I doing this afternoon? I have no idea. Right? And so the calendar has been really handy for me. I sort of have trained myself to be one of the first things I do in the morning is look at the calendar because I've missed important meetings from just forgetting that they're happening. So it can be a very helpful device for sure.
Can I give you my email address?
Yeah, go right ahead.
It's ROSAGREHER@gmail.
Let me repeat that. It's ROSAGREHER@gmail.
Yes, thanks so much.
Got it. You're on the email. Okay.
Dave, could I bring up just a slight issue that you might want to bring up in some of your other classes regarding email? And since you do stuff on the phone, something I'm beginning to recognize as I was preparing will information and all that kind of stuff is how much of my accounts, financial accounts and things like that, are using the second, the code password or the verification by sending you codes to your email or to your phone. And it's to me, it's something very interesting about the fact that your cell phone number and many of your emails should not be closed down after you die because they become an access point to get you in. I'm sure the telephone companies, people are beginning to realize that cell phone numbers are becoming identification codes.
That's right.
And I don't know where that's leading to, but it becomes a point that says it's almost like a key.
That's right. Well, Judy is the expert on these kinds of matters, but
I just wanted to bring it up, maybe something to talk about it sometime.
Yeah, she has a whole class on special notes you should leave as to, and in fact, one of those notes is where you've got this notebook, this amazing notebook that Judy put together of all this stuff, right? But probably in there somewhere should be how to get into your cell phone, because if somebody comes in, even if they've got a password manager and you're going into a thing, it's two-factor authentication, a fancy tech term for that. That if you're logging into your bank and it uses two-factor authentication, which I would recommend actually for any financial website, if that's an option for you, take it. But they won't be able to get into your bank account very easily on the web without your phone and being able to turn your phone on. So that's a very good point. I'm sure Judy can spend hours talking about.
Yeah. When is that class? When are you having that class?
I have to get permission to do that again.
Oh, wow.
So let me figure that out. But
What's it called?
It's you're getting your ducks in a row. It's a 5-day course.
Oh,
Not
is it
5,
free?
It's an hour and a half for 5 days. But Uncle Paul, that is a great thing that I actually had missing. Not the fact about the cell phone and the two-factor authentication, but the fact that people can be very hasty at shutting things down, shutting accounts down before. Oh, I love you, Uncle Paul. That's just like mine looks.
No, it's again, once you think about it, and it's not something to say, oh, I'm going to die and something's going to happen.
No.
It's very important stuff, especially if you live alone, and we old seniors, we like to have our independence.
Yep. No.
Man, you don't want to walk away and not let people know stuff that may be very important.
Uncle Paul, that's the first thing we should do with the Solo Agers group.
Well, something I did that I learned, I made out a piece of paper that I would bring to a doctor or to a hospital emergency room, all the information they ask you to put on a form. So I went out on the internet and I downloaded every form that a doctor's office or a hospital would ask you, and I just took off all the items and I just filled in all my information. Mm-hmm. So I'd have it on a piece of paper to take or give it to somebody. Mm-hmm. And it's, it's the numbers that are on cards and the, all that stuff that's on separate little pieces of paper.
Yeah. What that says to me is that you should have a HIPAA form in your book that says these are the people with whom it's okay to share information, because that family could take to the doctor, although you may have to fill in the doctor above. But it's very hard if you haven't thought to do that with every doctor, and you go into the hospital, you have a new doctor you've never met before, and your family can't talk to them because there's no HIPAA form.
Judy, I'm leaving. I just want to say we took the class with Judy, and I'm still working on my book.
Yes,
I'm getting it together.
Liz
it was
that
very
class.
handy.
She was
everything is in there. My daughter was amazed. She says, "Mommy, I don't have to do anything. You've got it together." I'm working on it.
It's a real gift for your
Judy, I want to take that class.
Yeah, I'll talk to them and see if they'll let me do that one. Yeah, because
I would highly recommend it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, everybody. Any other
5-day course will be listed under the whole thing of events when you have that 5-day thing?
Yes, we did it in Colorado, and so we did it virtually as well as in person. So it's already been tested. So I just have to talk to the curriculum committee department about that.
Thank you.
And Lori, you were asking about a standing list of getting recordings. Did you get that email from me that had the huge list of everything we've done since March 16th? I sent it yesterday or the day before, rather.
Can I have the list?
Yeah, so
it's like a big spreadsheet.
Yeah, it's a giant spreadsheet. I didn't do it as an attachment. I put it into the email. But
it looks like it's about 10 years of work that Judy did in a days.
So I'm going to be sending that out regularly. So I'll always be updating it. So you'll always have all the recordings and handouts and all of that. So
okay, I did get that, Judy.
Yeah, and by the way, when you get to the bottom of the email, it's so long that it says there's a little link there. It says see the to see the full email. Click on that, and it'll show you everything to the time I sent it.
You're my kind of over-organizer.
I know.
I would like that too. So I could see them. I would like to see those if they're recorded. If I'm not able to take something, you could send it to me.
Yes, Ann, I'll send you that.
Oh, thank you.
I'll send the spreadsheet.
If I know how to open a spreadsheet.
No, that's why I didn't attach it. It's in the email. It's so there's nothing for you to open.
Okay.
Because it is on Excel and not everybody has that. So we also have it in Google Docs, but Dave, I found that some people were having trouble opening the Google Docs link too. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I was trying to just make it the easiest way possible.
No, I think, yeah, I was I was actually recommending more of a belt, suspenders, and staples kind of thing.
Yeah.
You guys are awesome. Thank you so much.
Oh, Ann, we're so glad to meet you. I'm glad AARP sent you our way.
I'll tell you, this is great.
And great to meet you too. And Uncle Paul, I always love seeing you. Paul,
thank you. This has been great.
Judy, that's something I went out to find out about your area. Where are you guys located?
So we're in Denver, and the center is actually in a neighborhood in Denver called Lowry.
That's my last name.
Oh, wow.
Oh, where are you, Paul? What part of the country?
I'm in Manhattan, but I was at one time stationed at Fort Carson.
Oh.
My very first drink of scotch was at the Lowry Air Force Base.
That's where we are. We took over the Lowry. When they decommissioned the Lowry Air Force Base, it became our neighborhood.
Paul, my husband always has his scotch. You could come to. I'm 2 blocks away from the Air Force Base. Well, actually, I live where the Air Force Base was. But you know what? We have an officers club restaurant now. So when you come out, we'll have to take you there.
Senior Planet is right next to that. It's actually part of one of the
hangar.
Yeah,
wow.
they present 2 of the hangars and a B-54. You got to come see us.
Holy
and the Officers Club building is still there with a swimming pool.
I will always remember, I came back from Korea in the Army, and I was stationed at Fort Carson, and I was a lieutenant. And my captain, my commanding officer said, I'm going to take you out tonight. And he took me up to Lowry Air Force Base. And the most I ever had was a beer. And he said, I'm going to give you a dry Rob Roy. And he said, I work for the guy. And he says, here's something you must remember. Everybody has certain things for certain scotch. I say, if you drink Dewar's scotch in your dry Rob Roy, you won't have a hangover tomorrow.
Did you?
I had a few Rob Roys, and it worked. I'll always remember Lowry Air Force Base for that, as well as my name.
That's a great story.
Oh, thank you. This is awesome.
Oh, well, we love having you all on, and we hope you come back and visit us anytime you want. So I'll also include, so the email will be ready to go as soon as the video downloads, but I'll also include the link to this session tomorrow too, if anybody wants to come on then.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. This has been great.
Well, thanks for
great having you. All right, everybody.
Thanks, Dave.
Good afternoon. Oh,
Okay.
and Dave, wonderful. Thank you a million
Thank you,
times.
Dave.
You're very welcome.
You're a
Good to
whiz,
see
Dave.
everybody.
He is a whiz.
Thank you, Dave.
Okay,
Take
bye.
care.
Thank you.